Hey guys, it's Drac. Today we're doing a complete overhaul of the Nerf Firestrike Elite Firestrike. And by complete overhaul, I mean complete. We're not going to minimize this one like we used to do the Night Finder because it has a very specific purpose to serve. This needs to be the Draculina's HVZ secondary when we're done, which means that it needs a high power ultra bright LED replacement in here and a brand new set of turtles so that it can snipe zombies from up to 50 feet away. So let's see what we've got, open up the blaster and start. So the first thing that you do when opening your Firestrike is you remove the battery end cap here, and it's all one piece, which is nice. The screw is built into it, which is also nice, but it's the only silver screw. Then there are going to be 7 Phillips head black screws that hold the main body together. Once you take that off, you can go ahead and flip it open. Once you get a look at your internals, there are immediately some things to notice. One, the switch is a little bit different than it was in a Night Finder. It's an actual push button to activate switch controlled by a mechanical piece of plastic here that just recoils based on its own tension, which is kind of neat. And then over here we have the 2 dart holders. Those are all one piece, and then the plunger assembly comes out and you can see that it is attached to the flashlight. Now we're going to be upgrading this LED in here with an ultra bright blue LED, and that's as simple as taking this out, removing this kind of assembly, and then noticing that there's just a really cheap LED in here, and hopefully we can just desolder these leads and pull it right out. But I'll show you that in a separate segment entirely. Now this barrel assembly is attached to the plunger assembly, which is nice, and it should be really easy to get apart. This looks like it's going to pry off. I'm not entirely sure how difficult that's going to be, but that was pretty easy. So that comes off. This looks like an entirely cosmetic piece that's attached to the main barrel, which should be easy to work around. And then the plunger is a simple direct plunger. To open this up, you've got to remove this black plastic piece in here, and then you can just kind of pry these pegs to get the plunger cap off. We're going to do a spring replacement with something really tough. I think we're going to use a K25, and then we're going to go ahead and upgrade the catch spring as well. So I'm going to get started on that and show you what it looks like when it's done. So at this point I want to mention 2 things. One, knocking the air restrictor out of this was super duper easy. All you had to do was take it apart here. These aren't even solvent welded together, which is ridiculous. So you pry it off of the plunger tube, go ahead and twist these pieces apart, and you can see that it just broke into multiple pieces, and you could just pop out this. I ended up snipping it out using a pair of simple snips. I'm sure you could also tap it out with a flathead and a hammer if you had to, but then I'm going to put it back together and reattach it to the plunger tube while I work on the plunger rod itself. The only other thing I'm going to mention is that I will be taping over this air release hole at some point. Now I'm going to work on the LED work itself. I've got a blue ultra bright LED. It was $2 at Radio Shack. That's pretty tough to beat. I'm going to desolder this from this board and then solder this into place. I might just skip it entirely, mount the LED up front, and then extend these wires to it. In fact, that's what now that I'm thinking about it and processing it, I'm going to just snip this off the board entirely. Whoa, because this is a super duper cheap LED, and I just don't think that I need the board or the resistance that it brings or really any of that. So I'm going to go ahead and mount an ultra bright in here and see if we can't turn this into not only a high powered flashlight for the Draculina, but also a really powerful secondary shot. So as I mentioned before, I still need to come in and epoxy everything together, but you can see here that the plunger tube has been reattached. You want to make sure that this lower point of holding is lined up with the lower point up here because it does fit back into the blaster like this. Then you can see that inside we have a complete air delivery system from our plunger to our barrel. And then inside here you can see that I have gone ahead and attached a K26 is the new spring. I decided to go with it instead of the K25 because it was narrow enough to fit in the plunger tube pretty comfortably. And then I'm going to come in and epoxy this before I add that rubber bumper back on. But all in all, I think that the blaster is coming together very nicely. This should be the last shot of the internals because I have also come in here and attached our blue ultra bright. One bonus for doing this mod is that now the LED will be blue and not red, which will fit the styling of the blaster. Why they put an LED in here that was red in the first place is kind of confusing to me since it's not actually a red dot sight. It just looked silly. So I'm going to put the blaster back together and show you what it looks like when it's complete.
Hey guys, so this is the final segment for the Nerf Firestrike Ultimate Mod Guide. I left all of its external stock and unpainted so that it'll work with the narrow base holster, but the power that I'm getting out of this is definitely the equivalent of old Nightfinder mods, and that's more or less without a rebareling, which is just awesome. They made the dart fit much better for elite darts. Whoa, that was a shame. Here, let me grab that and get that final shot off. That's just the effect of not priming it all the way and it slipping a little bit because the seal is so nice. But I can't really show off the effects of the ultra bright blue LED because it's so bright outside right now. If there's a request for that, maybe I'll do it later. But that is the Nerf Firestrike Ultimate Mod Guide. More or less the same potential as a Nightfinder. In the future, I may come back and rebarrel this for an NIC game type, but since we need it for humans versus zombies right now, I think that this is definitely the way to roll with it. As always, guys, thanks for watching.